Hey mama, let me guess. You're exhausted. You're running on coffee, chaos, and sheer willpower, trying to balance motherhood, business, and faith. But most days you feel drained, overstimulated, and stuck in survival mode. I see you. I was you. I'm Cheyenne, Christian mom of three, business owner, and your new virtual bestie. Here's a virtual hug. Who gets what it's like to chase big dreams while wiping sticky fingers, battling mom guilt, and wondering if you'll ever feel like you again. Here's the truth. You don't have to choose between your family and your calling. You don't have to live in exhaustion, and you definitely don't have to do it alone. That's why this podcast exists. Each short, powerful episode is packed with real-life hacks, faith-filled encouragement, and simple wellness tips to help you ditch burnout, reclaim your energy, and step into the thriving life you were created for. So, take a deep breath, mama. You can have more energy, more joy, and more balance, and I'm here to help you every step of the way. So go ahead, hit subscribe, grab your coffee or matcha if you're fancy, and let's do it together. Well, hello, everybody. I am giving you a huge virtual hug here because this is the first episode of the Energized Mama in a very long time. I feel like asking you, hey, how are you? How's it going, guys? Because this podcast has always been a conversation, and I am so excited that you guys have decided to tune back in, or perhaps this is the first time you've listened to this podcast. And wherever you find yourself, I am just so thankful that you clicked on this title today and dove in. And before I introduce my guest today, I actually want to share with you guys a little glimpse of what's been happening in my life since the last episode, and just this journey that I've been on that has literally brought us together today. So as you have seen, my podcast is called The Energized Mama, and I have felt so energetic in my first couple years of being a mom. When my son Mason came along, which on the day of this recording, his birthday is tomorrow, so it's almost been 5 years, I felt so alive in being a mom. I felt like my life's mission had been fulfilled when he was born. And, in that first year, I was able to get that baby weight off. And even in the midst of one of the craziest seasons of, I think I can say, all of our lives, because it was during the first year of COVID, I felt really good. I felt so very good, and so much so that I wanted to share with you what I was doing. And that's how the Energized Mama became birthed. That's how this podcast was born. It actually first started, if you guys have been listening since the beginning, it used to be called Moms Matter. I just jumped on here in the middle of a worldwide pandemic and was like, you know what? Mom stories are valid. They need to be heard. They need to be shared with the world. And we're all stuck inside behind our devices. So let's share some goodness with the world. And then it transitioned as I wanted it to be more intentional. I wanted to share with you, ladies, how you could also be an energetic and a vibrant mama. And then flash forward to the year 2023. I had just given birth to my second child, had the most amazing pregnancy where I felt so energetic. I had the most incredible, affirming, most just absolutely, honestly amazing home birth that was so much easier than Mason's birth. My son, Nakoa, came out so beautiful and so easy, and it was such an empowering time in my life. And then slowly but surely, in the weeks after my postpartum, I started to feel unlike I ever have before. I started to put on weight instead of, lose the weight. I started to feel consistently bloated. The brain fog got really real. And as some of you may know, if you follow me on social media, it was also the season when my family and I, after 3 years of going through an immigration process, we finally got approved to move to the States. So here I was, going into this season where I should have felt so on fire. I should have felt so alive, having two boys. My bonus girl was moving across the ocean with us. We finally were achieving this American dream. And yet I felt really like a shell of the woman I once was. I felt overwhelmed. I felt constantly hungry. I felt like I couldn't think straight. I had such a lack of clarity. And it was so much more than just all of the stuff going around me. I really felt like my body was fighting against me. But in this season, God didn't abandon me. In this season, he gave me hope. And one of the ways he gave me hope was once I moved to the States, I got connected with an incredible group of women. And through actually not just one, but two different group of women, two different moms groups, I met this very special woman that is actually the guest today. So who helped me get out of this hole? Who was my rock? Who was the one that answered all my incessant questions about, am I ever going to feel like me again? Will my hormones ever be balanced? Is my poop supposed to look like that? All those questions. Well, I am so happy and honored to introduce not just this incredibly talented and skillful woman, but one of the women I would say is one of my nearest and dearest friends, Mrs. Stephanie Crabtree. She is a functional medicine registered dietitian and a happily married mom of three. So, without further ado, hey, Steph, and welcome to the Energized Mama podcast.
Hey, friend. Thanks so much for having me on. It's such an honor.
Oh, the honor is all mine. I'm telling you, like I didn't feel nervous before we recorded, but it's like a nervous excitement because you're such a close friend, but you're also someone that I admire so much. And I think so many of us go with our health questions to like Dr. Google or Chat GPT, and I am so happy that or may still check that at first. It's like now my go-to, like, okay, wait, I'm gonna text this to Steph. Like, what is the real? Like, what is Steph feeling about this?
Good.
So I have you here today because I happen to know that you are just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to so many different things. And I felt that with the relaunch of the Energize Mama podcast, especially as I'm coming out of this really foggy time of life, this almost, the baby that I talked about giving birth to, he is going to be 2 next month. So I've really only recently started to feel better. I know that there's moms here listening right now that are in that zone. They are in that period of just feeling so exhausted, so overwhelmed, and probably like I did. One thing I didn't say in the beginning of the episode is that I didn't just give up on myself. I mean, you know this. I shared with you that I was doing all the things that I used to do. I was doing intermittent fasting. I was not eating after 8 p.m. I was eating or drinking 100 ounces of water. I was trying to limit my food, my processed foods, and moving 4 or 5 times a week, 30 minutes or more, and it wasn't just that the scale wasn't moving anymore. I just didn't feel like myself, and I had total brain fog and low energy. So my question for you is, for the moms that are still in that space or feeling that right now, could you break down like why our bodies get so out of balance in the first place, like how that starts?
Yeah, for sure. So there are several reasons. There's not just one, it's a combination of lack of sleep, stress, sometimes poor nutrition, hormonal fluctuations, all these things that are kind of contributing to how you're feeling day to day. And especially the stress and that chronic stress
Mhm.
combined with sleep deprivation, they put so much impact on your adrenal glands. And when those are constantly being hit with like blood sugar spikes or cortisol spikes or all the things, then all of a sudden you start to have brain fog, low energy, and you just feel like you can't climb out. And so that's why I like to focus a lot on that blood sugar balance and, helping with the hormonal balance because it really is a somewhat easy place to start for women. But I think it's a combination. It's really not just one thing. Moms are just juggling so much. And, um, I feel like we also need to give ourselves some grace as well because
Yes.
it, we put a little too much expectation sometimes on where we should quote unquote be.
Moms putting expectations out there? What? No, I know. Well, and that's what I love is that you come from a place of experience too, because you're a mom of three. And I think your eldest, is she about to turn 8? Or she is
She's
8? No, yeah. So it's like, I mean, you've got three kids, 9 and under. So, I mean, this is so up your alley. Like, this is something that I'm sure you've lived or dealt with as well. Just being in the craziness. I think, and often how I felt, and I know conversations I have with moms is they sometimes feel most overwhelmed by where do I start? Because it's not like I can stop being a mom. And there's some things that they just don't know. Um, where to begin because they feel like so much of their life, like the things that say add to the cortisol, the stress, some things are just not able to be shifted. So in this season, they're not able to change. So I know that one thing that I'm really excited for my podcast guests to learn is that you are debuting a brand new program called Restoring Eden. And I happen to have the inside info, but now all of our listeners are also getting the inside info. It's like the Energized Mama exclusive. But
Yay.
I love it. So I know that it's all about detoxing, like gut healing, balancing your hormones, blood sugar, you had mentioned already. So if a mom is listening right now and she's feeling stuck and don't know where to start, what would you suggest for her to be the very first step she should take?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to create this course to begin with was this to me is kind of the foundations. Like what I'm presenting in my course is like the foundations of health from a functional nutrition standpoint. So when I
Hmm.
meet one-on-one, this is all the lifestyle information I give about restoring your gut, helping to balance your hormones, what kinds of foods to eat for what kind of gut bacteria to reduce inflammation, lifestyle tips for your circadian rhythm.
Wow.
I really believe strongly in a lot of the blood sugar balancing stuff for hormones. I think that is a really easy place to start because with your gut, that sort of restoration takes a lot longer. So that's going to take a couple weeks to a couple months to kind of rebalance your full gut microbiome. But with the blood sugar balancing hacks, those are like instantaneous change, right? So when you start to incorporate those into your lifestyle, you start to feel more energy in the afternoons. You have less brain fog. You're not having the cravings that you're usually having. So that's where I like for most moms to start. And it's easier, quote unquote, things to do. Like if you're sitting at a meal, eat your fiber and your protein first. So even if it's like a mixed meal, just try to pick out some of the protein and fiber first. That's that easy. Uh,
Wow.
Another one is something like do some sort of movement for 5 to 10 minutes after a meal. It could be a walk, but if you can't get outside, air squats, lunges,
Yes.
jumping, like literally, and vacuuming. You could even do chores around the house to,
Hey, that's a 2 for 1 right there, moms. I
so
remember you were the first person to introduce exercise snacking to me because, like, ladies, in case you don't know what that is, it's pretty much what she just described. I'll never forget the day that we were both mompreneuring it, like working at the YMCA, and you just got up, and I think you were doing like jumping jacks or air squats, and I was like, what are you doing?" And you were like, exercise snacking, because it is, you really, so you basically shared with me about how it was, like, I think it was once an hour, right? Like movement, like doing 5 to 10 minutes of movement. And it just reminded me how easy it can be and how hard we make it.
it's not 5 to 10 minutes, it's 60 to 90 seconds. If
Oh,
you
even
60 to
better.
90 seconds every hour, it can have the same benefits as like a 30-minute exercise session. And I
Wow.
don't personally have time for 30 minutes of exercise every single day. So, being able to incorporate these kinds of things for me has been huge.
Right. And I love too that something I remember just from, I joke with my friends and on this podcast that I've had like 9 lives. I've like lived so many different places, done so many different professions, but I used to do personal training. And I remember it was so powerful to give people quick wins because it's like once you have that, it really does build momentum. So I love that your philosophy and your program is built upon that. Like, let's get you some quick wins and some things that it sounds like what you help people do are just little like flips or switches in their day of stuff they're already doing. Like they're
Yep.
already eating. It's like, okay, but what order to eat?
Yep. And what types of foods to make sure that you're eating. Along with the course, I am creating a 20-day real food reset program. And what that means is there's no special powders or, juice cleanses or anything like that, but it's an anti-inflammatory diet plan and an elimination style diet to reduce inflammation, help with that gut restoration. And 20 days, I feel like, when I was looking at all the different timelines of what to do, your gut lining fully turns over in like between 3 and 6 months. but your gut microbiome can start shifting within 7 to 14 days. So that's kind of why I picked the
Wow.
20-day mark. And I think for some people who have maybe more significant symptoms like bloating and IBS type stuff, maybe they do it for 40 days, but it just gives you a blueprint of where to start from an eating.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to talk about detoxification. Like, how do we support our detox pathways? That's a really, cliche type thing to say right now. But what does that even mean? What is a detox pathway? Well, it's pooping, it's peeing, it's sweating, but it's also moving your lymph and supporting your liver and your kidneys. And how do we do this with food and movement, and just daily habits that we're already doing that we can just kind of amplify a little bit? And not have to do a sauna session every day because that's not realistic.
Right? I know, because it's like speaking of not having 30 minutes, I mean, just to have the ability to go to a sauna
Yep.
is not always in the, lineup for a lot of moms, but it's also like then to just sit there and get that, like you said, that sweat. I love that you brought that up because I think when so many people think of detoxing, they think of like juice cleanses. Right, or taking some kind of supplements that make them poop all week long, kind of thing. And so I love that you brought up the fact of, I'll never forget when I first learned at like some national natural health convention years ago about how your skin is your biggest detoxifying organ. And it makes so much sense. And that's what I love is I feel like you teach very practical things, like things that we either just don't realize because we're not educated about our body as a whole, like a holistic way, or we just forget. Like, I feel like that for me was a light bulb about the skin. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like what when we're sweating, what are we doing? What are we releasing? And so it's a very empowering space that you come from. And when you talk about detoxing, now I know you talked a little bit about your 20-day plan, but can you explain a little bit more about like, how does a detox, how does it support things like what women I think really want, right? Like they want more energy, they want balanced hormones, they want like less bloating, a better gut health. Like, how would a real detox, how would your 20-day, for instance, plan like help them with all those things?
Yeah, so the 20-day plan is designed from a functional medicine perspective to be what we call like a 5R protocol. And when you do a 5R protocol for gut restoration, the first step is to remove, and that's the elimination style diet. So we're removing common irritants, common inflammatory foods. And so just that alone is decreasing systemic inflammation. So that is going to support your body's ability to detoxify. We're getting rid of sugar, we're getting rid of alcohol, we're getting rid of gluten and dairy. Those are the big ones, but then also soy and additives, food additives, chemical additives, things like that.
Is
Uh,
there food outside of all that stuff?
yes, you'd be surprised at how many options. So I get not only give the overview, but I give
Mhm.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner ideas. And
Oh.
the blood sugar balancing hacks is to get a protein rich breakfast. And so there's 20 days of
Mm.
protein rich breakfast. The goal is between 20 and 30 grams. And this plan is not a count your calories, count your protein. But what I do want women to focus on is, are they getting good protein at breakfast? Because that sets your day up for success in terms of hormones. Because if you don't have amino acids, which are the building blocks of the protein, you don't have amino acids, you're not going to be able to make your hormones, your neurotransmitters, all the things, brain, all the things that are connected to our energy levels. And so that is just so important to be focusing on. So I think it's just a great place to start and just a great resource for women to have. Um,
I mean, I love that. I can imagine there's some women listening to us right now that are like, breakfast? What's that? Like so many women either skip it. This is often what I hear when I'm around a bunch of moms, they'll either say like they skip it or they grab something like on the way to dropping their kids off to school or on the way to work. And as we know, it's typically not probably very protein rich. And it just can really set their day up like for not the best feeling, not the best future choices. I know for me it's way harder to make better healthy choices if I start off on the wrong foot. So, but I also know that there's moms listening here that think they make good choices when it comes to breakfast or other meals. So, I'm curious if you'd be willing. I'm curious if you would share maybe some surprising, like air quotes, healthy foods, or habits that actually make things worse, especially when we're thinking about like gut health and hormone balance? Like, what would be some things that you think people might be a little surprised or shocked to hear are not the best?
I've got a handful. So, number
Oh,
one, I think, is eating too much raw food, especially raw vegetables, things like kale, broccoli, cauliflower.
wow.
Extremely healthy foods, right? But they can be really hard to digest for some people, especially people with gut issues. And then they also
Mhm.
goitre, goitrogen, goitrogens
That one.
can interfere with thyroid function, especially when eaten in excess. Um,
Wow.
so I think that's one is the raw
Mhm.
food. There also is
Mhm.
kind of a raw food movement, which don't get me started, but we're not going there. But I think that can be one. Excessive snacking is another one. So if you're constantly snacking, kind of like the diet of the 90s, like eat every hour, that's causing your stomach a lot of distress. It's constantly having to
Mhm.
periods of rest and where the gut is not just digesting all the time. And I would say that if you are properly fueled at meals, you don't need to snack. So
Oh,
I know.
don't hit the pause button now, ladies. Don't throw this away. I promise.
But
Because why would that be? Like, what would the principle behind that be?
yeah, so let's say again, you're running out the door, you grab a bagel or an English muffin and you just maybe put some butter on it or even some peanut butter, whatever. And you're running out the door, you're getting maybe 2 to 3 grams of protein. And so then in about an hour, you're hungry, which makes sense because you did not eat enough fiber, fat, or protein, which is to every successful meal. And so if you build your meals around that concept, you will have satiation, which means you'll feel full for longer. And you will be able to wait 3 to 4 hours to eat your next meal instead of being hungry every hour. And that's what part of what I'm teaching is how to build a meal, how to meal plan, what should be a pantry staple. So if you're on the go, you know what to grab for. Because I feel like that's always the question, like, well, what do I eat? What should
Yes.
I pound? And so that's something I definitely am going to be teaching in my course.
Yes, that is golden. That is golden. I, again, with just my history of teaching and talking about health online, so many women are they're so desperate just for someone to make it simple for them. It's like I know so many women like they want to be healthier. They don't want to feel the way they do, but when they go try to do it on their own, it just feels so overwhelming and complex, and everybody and their mother is recommending this and then that. And then of course we have the new rise of weight loss drugs like the coming in, and people just feeling so like confused about it all. And I love that I feel like you bring it back to the basics and literally like have named your course. Can I say I think, did I already say it? Can I say it? I'm obsessed. It's called Restoring Eden. And my husband instantly, who's also a friend, our husbands they kind of have a bromance. It's beautiful.
Sure.
Ladies, free tip. If you want your husband to make friends, just introduce him to your friends' husbands. Magic will happen sometimes. But no, he instantly, just the name was like, yes, like going back to the garden, literally, like the ideal, just for lack of a better word, format that God had, like plan that he had for the best of everything. It was ideal. So I love that you're bringing us back there. And I would love it, Steph, as we start to wrap up the end of this episode already, believe it or not. But, I know one thing that my audience has given me a lot of feedback on is that they love like just simple, realistic change, like something that they can walk away with today to get them started. So I'm wondering, can you share like 2 to 3 quick, easy shifts that can make already, like this week, they can make them start feeling better right away?
Yep. So we're going to go with prioritize protein at breakfast. That's going to be one of my biggest ones always. Drinking water first in the morning. You get up and you drink at least
Mhm.
6 ounces before your coffee. I would say 16 is going to be a little bit better. But try to hydrate yourself early in the day because your brain actually wakes up dehydrated because you haven't had water throughout the night. And so that's going to give you a burst of energy and kind of focus for the day, along with getting that protein to get your hormones up and functioning and your neurotransmitters up and firing. Um, and then, really taking some time before a meal, take a deep breath in through the nose
Mhm.
and out. to get your body out of that fight or flight and into the rest and digest. Because when we're go, go, go,
Mm.
our stomach is going to have a hard time digesting our food because we're go, go, go. But if you just take one hot second to take a big, deep breath and put you into that rest and digest state, your digestion is going to be so much better. So I think that's a big tip. Along with chewing your food at your meal. Running a million miles a minute, and sometimes I too forget to chew and like really chew your food.
Mm,
The more you chew, digestion starts in your mouth. The better digestion you're going to have as it goes down the tube, the food tube.
right. Like less inhaling, more chewing.
Deep breath in before and chewing.
Wow. You know what's great about that tip is I feel like that's something that every mom can help her kids practice too, because oh my gosh, like being that I'm married to a European, like we were just talking about how like table manners are not as much of a thing here in the US and how like kids just he's like, "Oh my gosh, everyone's talking and eating and trying to do both at the same time." And so that's a great one because that's I love it. It's all about incorporating what we're already doing and
Yep.
just making little tweaks. And actually one question I had that I'm not sure if you have a best answer for, but is there a certain amount if someone's like tracking their macros for protein to start with in the morning? Is there a certain amount of grams they should be getting?
Yeah, I like 20 to 30 grams. I think
Okay.
that's a good amount and it's realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot for.
Awesome. And something that's, like you said, realistic, practical, and something easy enough to do. I know a lot of my protein powders, which I'm not sure if you would suggest, but like I use a vegan protein powder and it has 20. Most of them have a basis of 20. So I'm like, it can only go up from there if you add some different things in there. So but I'm gonna leave that to you to share with specifically in your course. Now, as we're ending this episode, I would love to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about Restoring Eden. If you can share with the moms who are curious, like you've painted a little bit of a picture of what they'll get, but can you let us know a little bit about like the format and what they can expect and what will be offered to them if they decide to jump all in with you?
Yeah, so it's an 8-week course. I'm offering it live on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern and then Thursday afternoons, well, Thursday at noon Eastern. But if you can't make either of those live times, there is going to be a recording. We're hosting it on a platform where there's going to be a community aspect. So you can message people, you can get an accountability partner if you wanted to start that 20-day real food reset and do it with some people as a group. There's also going to be a live Q&As after the meetings, and you can also write in questions. And then what I think is really unique is there's going to be a lifestyle guide that goes with it. And so basically, I'm going to be presenting all this deep information, but I'm also going to be giving you practical how do you implement all of the sessions into your life in this lifestyle guide. So it's going to be hefty, lots of pages. It's a virtual guide, so you can print it out, you can keep it on hand. But that's also going to be included with the course. There's going to be space for you to take notes in the lifestyle guide. And, every week is a different topic. The first 2 weeks are going to be gut health, and then we're going to do hormone health. Well, there's going to be one on detox, there's going to be one on circadian rhythm. There's going to be one on how to meal plan and how to build your pantry and your meals. There's going to be one all about supplements, good, bad,
Mm.
ugly, protein powders, electrolyte powders, all the things from my perspective. Now, I will say my disclaimer is that this is not personal medical advice, that this is what I do for me and my family, and that you should always consult with your own healthcare provider before making changes to your diet or lifestyle. But this is kind of what I do for me. When it comes to supplements for things like allergy season, cold and flu, boosting the immune system, all the things. And then the last session is kind of putting it all together. Like, how do we take this information and make it a realistic way of life?
Mm.
A big key too is not idolizing this crunchy lifestyle and not letting this become an idol, truly. Like
Mm.
honoring God with our body, honoring Him with what we do and how we conduct ourselves in this aspect of our lives.
I love that. I love that. It's like the semi-crunchy, the like crunchy, God first, crunchy later kind of a philosophy, but I really love, and I feel like ladies that are listening, like it is golden that you have like a live Q&A and that you have this opportunity, because it's one thing to go to try to learn all this information on your own. I know firsthand that it's really hard to even know what to ask, because when you're not an expert, you don't really know what to look out for. So you're Googling and you're trying to figure out all this information, but then it's really hard to apply it when you don't have someone that you know and trust to your current, what you're already doing. So I love that. For instance, I'm sure that there's going to be women that come to you and say, "Hey, like I'm taking this supplement, or how does this fit in? Or I take this electrolyte stuff. Like when should I take it now after what I've learned? Like, okay, if I'm going to keep it in my regimen, when do I take it?" And just like all these things that I know are going to give people so much more peace. Like I feel like you're going to give people a lot of just a space to learn and grow. And you're open for, like, I think all the way from the science nerds, because I know, like you said, you're going to kind of give like that deep background, but then with the lifestyle switch, you're going to make it real practical. And for the moms that are just like, just tell me everything, I don't care, like just tell me what to do, but in such a beautiful, beautiful space, and from a place of true firsthand experience. And I love that about you. And I love that about what you do. So before we go, could you please just let moms know if they're like begging, saying, yes, 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 this is exactly what I need, what I've been praying for. How can they take that next step?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Holistic Health RD. I am new to this world of websites and all the things. So I do have a link in my bio to register. My business partner and I, Christy, we have created an Instagram together that's called Linen and Roots. So follow both of those. She actually has an entry-level course called Back to the Garden. So mine is actually a version 2, being Restoring Eden. Hers is very basic entry level, and she's really going to be focused on launching hers next year or maybe this fall. But you can go to my Instagram and find the registration link, and then I know Cheyenne's also going to put it in the show notes for everyone.
Yes, ma'am. Look at you being like my publicist. I love it. Just so on it, on it, on it. And yes, mamas, if you're just listening, driving, got your earbuds in, no worries. You can just go when you're parked somewhere safe. You can go ahead and just go to the show notes, and I'll have clickable links so that you can dive in deeper. And just from knowing Steph, you are so approachable. You are so humble. You love people, and you love to help people along on their journey. So I know that, seriously, girls, like when in doubt, hit her up, like fill out a form, hit up her DMs, send her an email, because I know she's more than happy to walk you along in this journey. And I'm just so happy that she's walked me along in mine. So Steph, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for being a guest on the Energized Mama podcast.
Thank you for having me. I hope to be back.
Oh, without a doubt, I will have a billion more health questions. So let's just air it here. Let's like air our dirty laundry and just like get it out. And actually, speaking of that, mamas, if you have some specific questions, no matter when you've come across this episode. So say, her program is launching April 8th, but say you come across this in June, July, whenever, please feel free to reach out to Steph still, or also myself. I know, Steph, this is the first of many. And eventually you intend, I believe, to record this and make it something like more self-led. But Steph is like in total creation mode. She is just on fire. And I know that this is something she's going to be doing for a long time to come. And then also, please, the one way I know how to really curate this podcast for you mamas that are listening is by getting your feedback. So if you have any questions, any comments, definitely reach out to me. Come find me at the show notes below. I've listed all my handles, my email, all of that. But until the next episode, I just want to say thank you so much for diving in, for allowing me to open up and share with my story with you. And I'd love to hear more of your own. And if you know that there's a mama out there who needs this, who needs this help, who needs this encouragement, please feel free to go ahead and share this episode with her or post about it on your own social. Without further ado, ladies, I am here giving you a big virtual hug, and I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Have a blessed and beautiful day. We'll talk soon.
Mensound.com